Our human bodies come from the planets and stars of the universe, but cosmically, is there anything greater than the stars and planets? The answer is yes. The black space that you see in between stars and planets is by far the greatest substance that exists. It's a condensed form of ether, which predates the creation of our universe. Now, this ether was the most sacred substance in ancient black history. Now, it seems like it's just empty space, but in reality, it's not empty at all. Now, in fact, using a primitive supercomputer, colonizers are just beginning to confirm that the space itself is indeed made of something. Now, what you see here is a vacuum of a tiny empty space that's approximately the size millionth of a billionth of a meter. The blue movement that you see is what the colonizer calls quantum fluctuations. Now, our ancestors knew about these fluctuations a long time ago, and that's why they called the pre-universal empty space the primordial waters. Now, in African traditions, water symbolizes spirit, and what you see here is a small glimpse of a condensed version of our spirit and how it's interacting with the physical plane. Now, it's appearing to be pumping energy to us if you really look at it. But what you're seeing here is a condensed, chaotic version of the pure ether, which is the God particle in our body that produces the melanin and makes us black. It's the true God particle, which is not a physical particle at all, and it exists without DNA or physical genes. Now, the lack of having that pure ether in the body is what makes the colonizers non-black. Okay, so colonizers recently discovered quantum fluctuations have the ability to produce physical matter. But some of the oldest science lessons on Earth actually depict physical matter rising from the primordial water in the form of a primordial mound. So we knew this way before colonizers could even read or write. Now, in fact, we know every single thing there is to know about quantum fluctuations and subquantum kinetics. Okay? Now, in fact, the very first subject ever taught in the world history was subquantum kinetics, which is really just the study of ether or the study of our spirit, the Ba. The ancient black people of prehistory were well aware that we were spirits inside of earthly bodies, and we are spirits inside of earthly bodies, and we knew that our spirit was the pure black ether. So when they brought children into the world, the first thing they taught them is what the ether was made of. That subject is way beyond the scope of colonizer sciences because you can only truly study the ether by using the Ba or becoming the ether. Now, in the near future, black people will once again begin knowing the sacred ether as we did in the beginning. On the other hand, colonizers study science by interacting with the physical aspects of nature, the ones that they can observe, such as atoms and electrons and such. But now they're trying to understand the subatomic level, where they're discovering that atoms are actually made of smaller particles that they call quarks and anti-quarks. They're also discovering these quarks like to sit on top of the quantum fluctuations, you know, the ones which produce physical matter. Now, when a quark and an anti-quark moves away from each other, they're finding out that it creates a vacuum of energy that they call a flux tube. Well, here's a 3,500-year-old depiction of a flux tube, complete with the quark and the anti-quark pair, as well as the quark sitting on top of the physical matter which arose from the primordial water fluctuation being poured out by the goddesses that you see standing on the side. Now, this is state-of-the-art science of today, which they call quantum science, interestingly depicted on an Egyptian papyrus 3,500 years ago. And you can't say that it's random because this papyrus was intentionally explaining the fundamental principles in the creation of the physical world. And these 8 fundamental principles were coded as Egyptian gods on this papyrus. But really, all the gods are really just one grand intelligence having different roles. Just like the human brain is one, but has different type of brain cells for different brain functions. That's the science behind the polytheism of ancient Egypt. It's just different functions of the same divine intelligence. Now, the ether is actually considered to be the mind of God, and the various Egyptian gods are simply various intelligences deriving from the unified mind. So this papyrus, corroborated by state-of-the-art quantum science of today, is undeniable proof that the quantum realm was observed and mastered by ancient black people thousands of years ago. Now, the reason that it had to be taught in secret is because to truly learn about the ether, you must cultivate a relationship with it, just like the ancient ancestors who lived thousands of years ago did. And when you truly know the ether and how it works, then you have the ability to bring forth creations such as plants and animals directly from the quantum fluctuations, meaning straight from thin air. And that's through the process of condensation, beginning with the ancient knowledge of mental magnetism. Now, during the cycle of white people, this knowledge is forbidden in the public, at least until after white people no longer rule the earth, which will happen soon when black people begin to rediscover the ether inside of them, which is called the spirit or the Ba. Now, this is what contains the ancestral memories of all ages, from the past, present, and future. This is actually the natural way of achieving the ultimate goal that the colonizers are trying to do in an artificial way by engineering an enhanced human body. You know, this is what they're discussing at the singularity conferences, and they're trying to fuse man with machines in artificial intelligence. Now, in fact, rediscovery of our natural Ba and activating our human brain the natural way, it spoils their whole plan. This is why black people must unite with the guardians of the sacred scrolls in Kenya, because they're the only tribe who publicly offered to teach us about the sacred herbs that's used to activate the human brain naturally without artificial intelligence and becoming cyborgs and robots, similar to what you've seen T'Challa do in the Black Panther movie.